welcome back to Cluster Course video. This is Jessa, your credit analyst, and today we will discuss about the special topics on credit. And here is the scope. Lending coverage for retail products. There is no geographical limit as long as the borrower maintains an active BPI deposit account. All approved loan accounts are required to have a deposit account with BPI, which shall be enrolled in ADA for loan repayment purposes. Waiver of ADA shall require the approval of the division head and retail loans group head, provided that the borrower's residence is situated within a 50-kilometer radius from head office or 20-kilometer radius from retail loan center or specific towns or cities approved by management. Next up, the AML risk rating and profiling. So there are three types of rating: the blacklisted, high risk, and normal risk. So who should be rated for AML profiling? These are all individual borrowers, sureties, and co-mortgagors. And for corporate borrowers, this includes their any beneficial owner, chairman of the board of directors or trustees, authorized signatories, and president or treasurers or their equivalent. And here are the blacklisted applicants. Those names who appears in OFAC list, UN sanctions list, BP list, SEC advisories, and HBL and RM2. And for nationality and citizenship of the following countries. For individuals, we always check the nationality regardless of the location. And for corporation, we only based on the location. We also include any of the applicants who owns and engaging in blacklisted industries, such as these businesses. And lastly, individual applicant who is a foreign tourist with no justifiable reason and legal purpose for applying a loan. So the action we do for blacklisted is to outright reject the account and report to compliance office. Who are the high-risk applicants? If their name appears in NTP tagging as high-risk transaction, high-risk reputation, or similar connotation. We also include internal PEPs, whether by name or by position. So here are the list of the incumbent elected government officials appointed in executive branch and heads of military services and police. High-risk industries includes money service businesses, third-party payment processors, recruitment or money agencies, financial technology companies, and embassies and consular offices. We also include in high risk if the nationality or citizenship of the individual or beneficial owners are from the following countries. And for corporations, if the registration and location is also on this list. So what do we do for high-risk applicants? This is where the enhanced due diligence came in to obtain deviation of approval. For EDD, we conduct mandatory KYC information. For individual applicants and corporate borrower, we ask the following questions. And to add up in the list of questions, we also ask during the interview the other source of income of the client, other bank accounts, and if listed as shareholder or part owner of other companies. So let's move on to UBO, or ultimate beneficial owner. Is a natural person who has ultimate controlling ownership interest in a corporate entity and has ultimate effective control over the corporation. UBOs usually holds the position of president or treasurer. So why do we need to identify the UBO? Because money launderers and terrorists routinely use the cloak of anonymity to prevent the AMLC and law enforcement agencies to track them down. They also seek to avoid freezing and forfeiture of their assets obtained through criminal activities. And this is how we identify the beneficial owner. To simplify, it is usually seen on the last pages of GIS. That's why we always ask for complete pages of latest general information sheet of the corporation. How to perform KYC and AML risk rating for UBO. So first, we obtain the minimum information. Second, we conduct sanction screening and assess customer risk profile. For example, if the UBO is high risk, the corporation should also be treated as high risk. So we conduct EDD and obtain necessary approvals. And if the beneficial owner is blacklisted, the corporation should also be blacklisted. An account should be closed and the loan application should be rejected. And then lastly, we indicate the results of sanctions screening and AML risk rating in the note. Types of ownership. Direct ownership with at least 20% ownership by natural person. And indirect ownership with at least 20% owned by corporate entity. Next up is related party transaction or RPTs. RPTs are not prohibited provided that these are approved by the appropriate authority and conducted at arm's length basis. These are the transactions or dealings with the related parties of the bank, including its trust department, regardless of whether a price is charged or not. These cover all the types of transactions on and off balance sheets, regardless of which side of the transactions or deal the bank is acting on. In cases where the borrowing entity is linked to BPI, both as dosary and subsidiary or affiliate, dosary rules apply. So these are the three buckets of related parties: dosary, subsidiaries and affiliates, and other related parties. Related interest refers to spouse of BPI officer or relative within first degree of consanguinity and affinity or relative by legal adoption of a dosary. For example, the first-degree relatives who are the parent, child, parent-in-law, or son or daughter-in-law. Subsidiaries, a corporation with more than 50% of the voting stock, of which is directly or indirectly owned, controlled, held with power to vote by its parent corporation. While affiliates refers to BPI's ownership or power to vote of at least 20%. Interlocking officership or directorship where officer or director owns at least 20% of the borrowing entity. Common stockholder owning at least 10% of BPI and at least 20% of the borrowing entity. Management contract. BPI's voting trusts of at least 20% in the borrowing. Other related parties refers to second-degree relatives of BPI's SVPs and up, first to second-degree relatives of BPI Group's SVPs and up, first to second-degree relatives of key officers of affiliates, BPI's ownership or power to vote of at least 10% up to less than 20%, interlocking officership or directorship where officer or director owns more than 2% to less than 20% of the borrowing entity, common stockholder owning at least 10% of BPI and at least 10% to less than 20% of the borrowing entity, BPI's voting trust or at least 10% to less than 20%, and entities where at least 50% of revenues is from BPI and BPI and its subsidiaries and, for example, affiliates. The first-degree relatives, who are the parents, children, parents-in-law, son and daughter-in-law, and up to second-degree relatives, who are the grandparents, grandparents-in-law, grandchildren, grandchildren-in-law, siblings, and siblings-in-law. Why do we need to know RPTs? For dosary, subsidiary, and affiliate, regardless of the amount, the required approval is up to BPI board and required vetting committee is BPI. So let's tackle sales responsibilities. Always include the question during onboarding. If with declared employee relative, then check citizenship and rank of relative with BPI or Ayala Group. Then prepare for RPT review sheet and RP analysis and submit to the proper committee for credit responsibilities. Include the question during personal data interview. Indicate in the notepad if with declared employee relative. Always check the citizenship and rank of relative with BPI and Ayala Group. If borrower is an RP, indicate subject to RPT vetting prior to implementation. And lastly, evaluate application as you would a non-RP transaction. Note that LOS dosary checking only includes ex-BFSB officers. So during PD interview, please always ask for relatives working in BPI Group. So that's all for the special topics on credit. I hope you learned a lot, and if you find this video helpful, please join me again on another episode of Cluster Force Discussion. That's it for today. Thank you.